People ask me what a homily is. My short answer is it's a short sermon for which those in the front row will breathe a sigh of relief again. I'm here to give a homily, not a graduation speech filled with platitudes. And for those of you who didn't do so well in your SATs, that means a remark or statement, especially one with a moral content that has been used too often to be interesting or thoughtful. Don't worry, I had to look it up also. I didn't do so well in my SATs, which is the first thing to know. You don't have to be Einstein to make a difference in the world. You just have to find ways to be grounded, to work hard, and try to gain some wisdom along the way. So back to what this is, a short sermon. Short on what, you ask? Not only short on platitudes, but also on long metaphors, except for this. Today, with one of my children in the line of graduating seniors, I feel like this poem by Linda Pastan was appropriate, and she wrote to a daughter leaving home, metaphor. When I taught you at 8 to ride a bicycle, loping along beside you as you wobbled away on 2 round wheels, my own mouth rounding in surprise when you pulled ahead down the curved path of the park. I kept waiting for the thud of your crash as I sprinted to catch up, while you grew smaller, more breakable with distance, pumping for your life, screaming with laughter, the hair flapping behind you like a handkerchief, waving goodbye. I feel like some people are always waving goodbye in the church, not just those of you who are wondering if you should stay here, but I mean you in the 4th row, Carter and Anne-Marie and Andrew and Nico and Jack and the rest of you. Leaving home. Some of you I have known since you took your first breath or were held in your parents' arms. Some of you I have known since you were small enough to fit in the bubble on the jungle gym and the playground. And anyway, life in general these days feels more and more like a child riding away from us. The world I thought I knew when I was your age, 15, 16, 17, is long gone, down the park path to the highway and off to the horizon. The world I thought I knew even 6 years ago also seems long gone. We are living in interesting times. And here you are, coming of age and seniors, and I don't envy you. And I want to say something very clear to you today, especially to those graduating high school. I want you to remind you that college is not real life. And also that high school is not real life. But here's the secret no one's going to tell you, and that is that middle school is real life. It's still funny the second time. Middle school is real life because you have to confront yourself and deal with all that squishy and terrible feelings, whether you belong or what you're supposed to do, figuring out what you're supposed to do or be. And I've got news for everyone here. Those feelings come and go throughout life. They probably don't end after middle school. But over time, you get better at listening to them, finding people to help you figure out the answers to those squishy feelings. And that is wisdom, and it starts in middle school. And here's another truth. The world we live in has prioritized power and money over all things. Everywhere you turn, someone is telling you that success and money and power are synonymous. For those of you with that SAT problem, that means having the same or nearly the same meaning as another word. Just checking to see if you're still awake up here. And the fact is that money and power isn't always a bad thing, but it can corrupt you and it can run all over your values and change what you have learned in this church about how you are an organism that has an impact on all other things. In this church, for those of you in front of me, and those of you who have heard this many times, we say we are part of an interdependent web of all existence. That is theology. That is not some flighty, hopeful, hippie platitude. We believe that you and I are connected and part of something that extends to every living thing in the world, and we have to live into that. So if power and money corrupt you from that value, you might go off and think you're happy, charging around on some powerboat on some giant lake, drinking fancy wine and telling yourself, isn't this the life? While we are here in the sanctuary on Sundays singing and praying for you and the world. While we preach sermons and homilies about how this whole power and money thing is not working, how it's not working for women, and it's not working for men, and it's not working for polar bears, and it's not working because at its core it teaches that we are separate and not responsible for one another. It's only working for companies that make pills for stress and heart disease, and politicians who lie to us about what they care about just to plunge us into losing our rights so they can enforce someone else's religious values on us. And so they can try to convince us, like the Michigan Republican candidate for governor, Ryan Kelly, said, that socialism starts with democracy. That's the ticket for the left, he said. They want to push this idea of democracy, which turns into socialism, which turns into communism in every instance. You can't make this stuff up. Socialism starts with democracy. What world are we living in where politicians in our own country are fighting against democracy? So for you seniors bridging beyond your high school lives, and for you coming of age, for everyone else listening in, ponder what you care about and what you will do with that. Ponder how you're taking responsibility for your spiritual life, which is kind of what this day is all about. Which kind of means facing the forces of the world with the values that you hold and cultivate. Which means facing people who will force us to have babies or tell us that democracy is socialism. The key teaching in this church is that we are part of an interdependent web of all existence that is theology, not a flighty thought. We feel like we must say this over and over so that you hear what we're saying. Which leads to my next piece of wisdom, which comes straight out of the UU playbook, and that is, I am here to say to you that your life is precious. That you will have only one life to live, and it's not to be wasted on bad relationships and bad marriages and bad jobs and bad people. Waste it wisely, I might say. We're living in a precious and fragile time. We know more about the origin of the universe than ever before. Your life took 4 billion years to evolve into, and you will be lucky if you live past 84. So act like your life is precious. That means challenge this notion that you are something special. For those of you in the fourth row and the first row, you are something special to us, but don't let it get to your heads. There are probably 20 million 17-year-olds in the world today. And you and me are like a speck in the sea of humanity. That neither entitles us to something, nor does it mean that we are not important. It means that life is precious, and what you do with your time matters. And it means that if you're playing beer pong when you're my age, something has gone really wrong. And it means that the next time some so-called friend tells you to surf on top of your car while she drives 100 miles an hour down the highway, you should go the other way and call your mother or father or call me. It means that every relationship is important and every choice you make is important, but it also means that your goals have to align with this opportunity. It means that you probably should never let go of the questions we have asked you to consider in this church. Are you doing what is most necessary? Are you putting your energies where they can be best used? Are you being true to your commitments? Does it matter where you have come from and to what you are going towards? Is what you do the kind of act of resistance that you want it to be? I'm giving you seniors copies of those questions so you can take them with you. And the rest of you, if you want copies of these questions, the ushers have them. Because these are theological questions. And what we're doing is asking you to live theological lives. To live theological lives. What I mean by this is that when in 1838 at the Divinity School address, Ralph Waldo Emerson, mentioned earlier, a Unitarian minister, a lot like me, but possibly a little taller, but a lot less fun, addressed the graduates of Harvard Divinity School and said, "Cast behind you all conformity and acquaint men at first hand with deity." What he meant was that to be so human in your interactions with other people was the goal, so that you open space for others to stretch out into their full humanity, to coax out what he called timed aspirations and trampled instincts, to let their doubts know that you have doubted, he said, and their wonder feel that you have wondered. For everyone, Emerson said, everyone longs for a few real hours of life. By which I think he means everyone loves to be heard and to be seen and to be invited into their humanity. And that might be a tall order for us, but if not us, then who will do this? If not progressive people of faith like us who have history with Mr. Emerson, who will help draw out radical possibilities of our humanity from one another? And that is the last thing I will say in this homily, that you, me, us, we are called to draw out deity and divinity in one another, even with people we dislike or disagree with. Now look, the world is way more fractured than when I graduated high school. At my graduation back in the mid-'80s, we swayed and we sang the song, "We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving." We should have been singing, "We are naive." But we didn't live through George Floyd dying on our telephone screens, or January 6th, or the downfall of protected reproductive access for women and people, or shootings at supermarkets that were enraged by white supremacy. And yet the call is still the same, that you must be in the fight for what is right, that your life is precious, and even with those who you disagree, the goal is to try to make room for them to know their divinity. That only in making room for people to see their connection to you and the interdependent web of all existence, only in that act might we change the world. Because our vision of humanity must remain high. It must not fall to the prey of divisions and demonizations or the painful theologies that make us victims of God's wrath. We must remain in the light of love and the power of commitment and the warmth of community and the companionship of compassion. And that doesn't mean we get walked all over by other people. The fights we will have in the coming months and years over abortion, over the right to contraceptive, over same-gender marriage, and worse, are coming. We are not backing down because we remember our place in the web of all existence. We are standing up because that web is important, because life is precious, and our ability to make room for others is the mission. And those of you who look rather bored in the fourth row, if you forget all this, then live stream worship or come back and sit in this sanctuary and sing and pray and hear homilies about the power of love. We will be here practicing all this for the sake of the world. I love you all, seniors graduating, especially one of them who lives in my house. And not so much yet you in the coming of age group. But there is time, don't worry. We're going to Boston together. Yeah. We're going to know each other better by the end of that week. And I love you all here. And it matters that we keep saying that to one another. The world isn't getting easier, friends. And above all, we need each other. We need each other now. Homily is over.